My name is Mark Peterson, everybody, from William Woods University. Let's share a quick thought from an MBA graduate. It's called Tell Me I Can't. I want to be a caring, more involved husband and father and friend. Why don't you tell me I can't? I want to be a better friend, a better listener, a better person. Tell me I can't. I want to rise up, challenge the status quo, overcome. I want to succeed. Tell me I can't. I want to help solve problems, always battle, never quit, never give in, never give up. Tell me I can't. I want to be better than I am, do a little more, try a little harder, reach a little higher. Just tell me I can't. I want to be a stronger leader, a more skilled employee, a more trained team player, more dedicated, more committed. Tell me I can't. These are my statements of affirmation, my beliefs, my hopes, my convictions. You tell me I can't do something and I will prove you dead wrong. Tell me I cannot do something and I will always, every time, show you I can. Now at William Woods University, tell us we can't. In 1870, the school opened as an orphan school. 1890, the school moved to Fulton because of a tragic fire. 1914, William Woods was accredited as a junior college. 1962, receives four-year college status. 1972, establishes first bachelor's degree in equestrian science, first in the world. 1990, Dr. Janae Barnett named university president, first female president in WWU history. 1992, we opened the graduate programs. 2012, William Woods launches a fully online degree program offering. Here in Columbia, we've been on site as offering education for over 10 years, offering degree programs around the state for over 15. More than 2,100 proud graduates of our program in the Columbia area alone. Impressive. Education is all about challenging thinking, innovation, change, and progress. Yeah, these are power words. People love using them. But these kind of words, without actions, they're like a rocking chair. A lot of movement, a lot of activity, but you don't get anywhere. Some teach about pushing boundaries. William Woods breaks them. Some teach about progress and change. William Woods has embraced it and led in both. Some talk about being student-focused. William Woods consistently makes every decision with the student at the center. Some believe the bottom line is the most important. William Woods knows that each student's success is the bottom line. For the better part of 100 years, much like the entrepreneurs and business owners here today, both big and small, we've been told countless times, you can't do it, quit, give up. It's too tough, you will fail, go home. For the better part of 100 years, we have consistently proved those doubters wrong. Our motto, our anthem, our commitment, our ultimate goal, just like those made by our driven and passionate students, is to defy the odds, continue to improve, change, and innovate, and most importantly, readily extend an open invitation for all to lead, to teach, and to empower our future graduates to do more, earn more, to become more. William Woods University is the place for every single person in this community, and we really appreciate the opportunity to have participated in this event. Thank you.
Mark Peterson, the Vice President of Enrollment Management at William Woods University, thank you so much for joining us. I want to bring up Randy Minshew, who's going to introduce a very special guest. Randy?
Thank you.
And tell people where you're from as well.
My name is Randy Minshew. I own a company, or several companies here in town. You can see a bio at randyminshew.com. I own a company called Innovated. We've got a project called golfso.com, which is a social network for golfers. We have a incubator called Como Incubator here in town. And so we're just crazy entrepreneurs. I did want to point out, and as cute as the twins are and as impressed as I am with their boots, I was disappointed they didn't make a pair my size. That was one issue I had. But the other one is, you know, there's more than one cute set of twins in here. So Keith, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell everybody that Keith Pilley and I are twins. So if you get around us, we'll finish each other's sentences. It's really cute. But just real quick, I wanted to say that, you know, I appreciate everybody showing up here. We're from many, many backgrounds, such diversity. It's amazing. I got a GED program. I got a GED in the rehab program in Houston, Texas when I was 19 years old. So we're across the board here. Everybody's got an opportunity. You can make this work. That we want to know who you are. We want you to reach out to us. You can reach me at randy@randyminshew.com. Please get us your email. Find Heidi Furman. Get her your email address. This is like herding cats. Entrepreneurs are everywhere. We've got you herded this close. Let's make sure we get you in contact with Heidi so you're involved in all future things that we do. So, without further ado, I wanted to first say congratulations to Jim Spencer. He has a 3-month-old baby named Judson.
Yeah.
So let's get the important stuff out of the way. Jim is the vice president at Newsy and formerly was with Ask Jeeves, ask.com, which is a service that I used when I first got on the internet. I used it hundreds of times, so I'm very impressed with that product and used it a lot. He was also with AOL. So without further ado, Jim Spencer.
Cool. Thank you, Randy.
So great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
You must be jet lagged from having a 2-month-old, I can't imagine.
Sure.
But we appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Yep.
So for people who aren't familiar, when did you start Newsy, and what is the organization for people who don't already
Sure.
know?
Usually we show a video that helps explain it far better than I can. But essentially we are high quality, advertising friendly, online and mobile video news at scale. We started approximately 2008, moved our company from San Francisco to Columbia, Missouri, not something that everyone would do. We decided that both the wine and the weather here in Missouri were the big drivers in that decision. But actually I graduated from the journalism school, at least they're still saying that I did. When I was in the search business back in the mid-late 90s, the proximity to the computer science department at Stanford or at Berkeley had a tremendous amount to do with the quality of the search results that you're able to generate. So when we decided that we were going to do online and mobile video, we thought the best place to put it was right across the street from what we believe is the first and the finest school of journalism in the world. And so that's why we're here.
Yeah. So how has that worked out? Was that a good decision looking back
Sure.
on it to locate in Columbia, Missouri?
It was interesting when we first started it. There were some folks that were apprehensive of partnering with, an institution we opened our newsroom the night of the 100th anniversary of the journalism school. So they'd been here for a long time, and they're much bigger than we are. They could squash us like a little bug, but we really came up with a partnership and a model that was very mutually beneficial to both the journalism school and to our company. And that was probably the most important part. We started early conversations with the university. Randy, thank you for the kind introduction, but he mentioned his twin brother, Keith Polite, who was instrumental in helping make key introductions from the university system throughout the journalism school. There were still plenty of familiar faces that were still here from when I went to school. And I think they were very pleased with the concept and very pleased with the idea. And our startup is a little bit different. We're very purpose-driven. We're very profit-driven as well, but we're very purpose-driven. And so overall, it's turned out to be an absolutely fantastic decision. And as we've adapted and pivoted and evolved over the last 5 years, we've found ways to make it even more of a competitive advantage. So it's cool. Yeah.
So what would you tell someone outside of mid-Missouri who's watching this right now and asking themselves, why should I locate my startup? Why should I come to Columbia, Missouri from San Francisco or from wherever and relocate in the middle of the Midwest? Tell them why.
No, and it's true. I mean, I've been back to New York twice in the last 6 days, and we're a little bit off the grid. But February 14th, we got those flights going to Dallas and Chicago. Who's counting? But I can't wait. I think there are a number of different advantages. It really depends on what kind of business you're in. We came here primarily because of the journalism school. What we are able to do with the system that we've created is hopefully identify and attract and retain the best and the brightest who are really, really motivated in what we're doing from the journalism school to come and join our company. So it's really worked out very, very well on that front. You know, you start to get into other kinds of industries. There was a fellow I met, I think, the other day who was looking at stuff like data centers and all sorts of stuff. I think, you know, some of the things for general business are, it's very difficult to compete with the cost basis that we have here in mid-Missouri. Another thing is that it's a really, truly wonderful community with great schools and great people. I'm still digging out from all of the baby presents that we got when Judson was born. And it's a very nice place to be able to have a family and raise a family. But the other thing is that's really nice is you get a workforce who is enormously committed to doing a good job and working really hard and being very respectful and appreciative of the opportunities that you create for them, and they will work very hard to realize them. And then probably fourthly, because there's not a vast number of startups here, that, you know, you're not constantly being poached by someone who's kind of trying to take your feet out from underneath you or just grab, you know, people and do that. So, you know, those would be like 5 or 6 things that I would think about. The other thing is that, you know, some people think it's hard to raise money or do something like that. We've raised over $5 million during the financial crisis here in Missouri, and all of that money was raised here in Missouri.
And how did you
and they're
do
cool
that?
investors. By banging on a lot of doors. That seemed to help. No, it was really interesting. It was essentially a network of people who we kind of moved from one network to another. So we started with Centennial Investors, which is a local angel group here in town. It might have been this room or it might have been upstairs. I think it was November or December of 2007. December, it would have been 2007. And that was our first initial seed investment. And then from there, we met more people and more people, and more people wanted to come in, and it's worked out really well. Taking angel money, I think, is a really smart move. And making sure that you know who you're taking money from and what their goals are, and making sure that their goals are your goals is enormously important. And I think that some of the folks here in Missouri have greater flexibility and possibly, I don't want to say less intensity. They very much want to return on what they're doing, but they're much less likely to hold a gun to your head and tell you what news stories you need to cover.
You mentioned that you've made several pivots in your
Yeah.
life. Can you talk about how you came up with the idea for Newsy, and what were some of those earlier pivots that led towards it?
I think I did my undergrad at NYU's film school, and when I first graduated, there was this brand new technology, Sarah. It was called the VCR, and it was going to destroy the movie business as we know it. And so I helped start a video cassette division because I wasn't as talented as a number of the people who wanted to become big-time movie directors, many of which did. I got into distribution and marketing, and I helped start a video cassette division at a film distribution company, and things really took off. And what we found is that people would still go to the movies and buy tickets, but then they'd also buy the video cassette, and revenues essentially kind of doubled. And so the path that I basically took was, as technology made its way and impacted the media, that's essentially the path that I took. So VCRs into cable, cable into, frankly, what became the internet, from message boards and bulletin board services, as they were called when I was here, and now mobile. I think that mobile is very much where things are going. So as technology has shifted and impacted the media business, I think that's pretty much the trend that I followed. And then in terms of coming up with the idea, there's a chart that shows, and you worked in the media, you know this, the only group I know whose favorability or lack of favorability ratings that have fallen faster than Congress's are the media. Things have become far more partisan. Things have become far more polarized, despite the fact that there's been, an increase of hundreds of thousands of new credible news sources. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to try to get people to start to listen to each other again. And part of that means being able to see a different perspective or a way that a story is being covered in the press. But we also add to it context, analysis, commentary, criticism, but most importantly, convenience, where you can sit down and you can watch one of our clips on, on like an iPhone or an iPad or an Android or whatever your flavor. You can go to our website, and you'll be able to get a pretty good sense of how a story is being covered. So when you go to your dinner party or cocktail party tonight and someone mentions a news story, you're not just repeating maybe what the local news said here in town or maybe the national news said here, but maybe what a really smart blogger or someone in Asia or someone in Europe said about it as well.
What do you think will be more important in the future for journalists and media companies, in that everyone is a media company nowadays? Will it be content creation or content curation? Yeah,
I think it's actually a combination of both. The reality is that one of the true beauties of the internet, and I think the real currency of the internet are links. It is two-way. It is interactive. I don't need to tell you that. You're using Google+. But it allows you a starting point that can move in many, many, many different directions. There are a couple of very cool technologies that we're working on that create nonlinear video storytelling, which is really kind of a cool concept. But you create the content, but then in order to really fully utilize the internet, it would be wise for you to be able to link out to other people and have them link back to you. In fact, one of the reasons that Ask Jeeves did not end up winning the search race was that Google came out with a better technology called PageLink, which is totally based on how many links you have, going in and out of your website as an indication of a quality answer. Before then, it had to be kind of a human curated answer. The other thing is another reason that we moved here is we truly believe in the importance of human curation and editorial judgment. Computers can mimic, for example, PageRank can mimic human thought and process and associations, but despite all the movies since like the 1950s about artificial intelligence, it's still kind of more on the artificial side than it is the intelligence side. And so until we get there, I think both the creation and the curation and the decisions that go along with that are really important.
Okay. You talked about mobile a little bit, so let's just go back to that. At Veterans United, we have a big sign that says ATM, which stands for Always Think Mobile.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs here, should they also be aware of mobile technology, and how should that play a part in their decision-making process and their creation process?
Absolutely. Well, in your hand, you have yours, and in my pocket, I have mine. And I also have an iPad sitting here. I also have an Android sitting here. I also have a Windows Phone sitting here. And the reality is that these are enormously, enormously important devices. So you talk about pivoting. The iPhone didn't exist when we moved here. And we came out with a very early iPhone app. We came out with one of the first video-centric iPad apps. I just got back from a major media company in New York who believes that 50% of their business in the next 5 years are going to come from mobile. I know that there are some good stats at VA Mortgage that talk about, Veterans United, I'm sorry, that talk about how many transactions they're going to close via mobile. These devices are with people almost all the time. They continue to grow in sophistication. They're shipping more of these than they are desktops now. And despite the fact that rumor has it we went through a kind of a difficult financial time in this country, these things continue to fly off of the shelves. And these are people making, multi-$1,000 a year investments in being able to be connected. And many people wonder what life was like before we actually used to have these. I remember waiting outside for my parents to come pick me up after basketball practice, and the only way to get in touch with them was on a payphone, and you would call your house, and no one would answer. And so you just kind of stood in the cold waiting for someone to show up. Now, you just text, and boom, they're there. So these things have really changed people's lives in many ways, and I think for the most part for the positive. We'll get better about it. We'll get better about going to meetings and not texting in the middle of them. We'll get better about doing an interview and not getting on the phone or whatever. But I think that this very much represents the future. In fact, if there are any people here that are attending the journalism school, I used to walk around with a piece of fiber optic cable when I was in grad school to give you a general idea of what a complete idiot geek I was. And if I were at the journalism school right now, I would be enormously, enormously focused on this. You have to skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it was. And I know that there are a lot of great, wonderful things about all sorts of different forms of media, but even a lot of the traditional media companies are finding ways to port their information to these devices in a meaningful way so that they can stay relevant to their customers.
So going to where the puck is headed, where do you think the puck is headed for journalism, for online content creators, for media organizations?
Sure. You know, it's interesting. I had been in a bunch of different, you know, kind of technology, internet focused companies, and I decided to start Newsy. And some people would go, well, you know, why the hell do you want to go into the news business? The news business is dying. And I'm like, the news business is not dying. The real truth is that there is a greater demand, and there is more news now being consumed through devices like this and computers and so on and so forth, and through newspapers and television and radio than ever before. So it's actually a growth business. What's changed are the distribution systems and the business models associated with news, and that you have to be able to shift and pivot and be adaptable to what those are.
And do you think some of those business models are pivoting quickly enough to go alongside some of the innovation that's happening in journalism?
There was a reason that I left traditional media and went pretty much exclusively into online media back in the 90s. Because I got a little bit tired of saying the internet's coming, the internet's coming, the internet's coming. But I think that they're doing their best in order to do so. I can tell you, even as a company that's 5 years old, we've developed a few legacies within our company. Like, for example, you said Veterans United, you know, ATM, always think mobile. That was not a sign that would have been hanging up there when they started the company, nor 5 years ago would have been a sign that they had hanging up there. So they're having to pivot as well. And the reality is sometimes when you're running a company at the same time, it's really hard to pivot at the same time. I call it building the plane while you're flying it, and you've got to be able to shift and change. And so I think the media industry face the exact same, not exact same, but different sets of circumstances. Some different sets of circumstances, but ones that aren't too terribly dissimilar from a bank or a loan company or many others. And you know, you worked in the news business, and it's a constant cycle that's constantly going. So it's not like, oh, hey, we're just not going to go ahead and do a few newscasts today so we can work on mobile innovation. They expect you to be there, and they expect you to deliver. So yeah, it's been hard, but they're trying, and they'll get there.
I want to open it up to any questions for Jim Spencer if you're just watching. Jim Spencer is the Vice President of Newsy, so feel free to come forward and ask him a question.
Oh, no questions.
No?
There we go.
Go ahead and stand up if you would.
Okay. Unfortunately, I have the real reality of being president and founder of Newsy. I wish I were vice president.
That's what the
if someone wants to take over the presidency, just let me know.
You know what, Jim? You're right. Mine says vice president
I'm
of Newsy.
kidding.
So
I report.
I'm glad that
I report
you
to you
corrected
now.
me. Yeah, right.
It works out great. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
President and founder. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Oh, how you doing, Mr. Spence? My name is Zachary McGowan. I'm an undergraduate student here at the University of Missouri. And I'm just like absolutely in love with the business model of Newsy.com.
Yeah.
But my primary question, as far as like your sources, with that, what is the exact process that you go about finding sources that are unbiased and that are accurate and get to the point in these 2.5 minute videos that you guys broadcast?
Zach, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Zach, very, very good question. So let me kind of help rephrase your question in a way. I don't really believe, and this was one of the founding principles behind Newsy, I don't believe that objectivity is something that is achievable. I don't think that it is possible to say something in an unbiased way. I grew up in Kansas City. My father was an orthopedic surgeon. My mother was a retail executive. I went to a couple of different schools back and forth in Kansas City. I went to NYU. I came to here. I've been in New York and San Francisco for the most part for the last 20 years. And if you put me on a plane and send me to Afghanistan, as well as maybe put you on a plane and send you to Afghanistan, my guess is that we're both going to come back with something kind of similar. But there's also going to be some real differences in it because you are yourself. You have your own perspectives. You have your own perceptions. You have your own insights. So I don't believe that there are objective sources out there. What I do believe is that you can take a variety of those sources and combine them in a way so that you can point out the differences between them, or at least acknowledge what the differences are between them, so that you can draw your own conclusions as to what you think the story is. One of the problems is that in kind of like a semi-polarized world, people get into their media habits and they have a tendency to kind of keep going back to whether it be the same television station or the same cable network, or there's only a certain number of newspapers or magazines that you would subscribe to, or only a certain number of websites. I mean, there are millions of credible, good, solid news sources out there. But my guess is that once you get through maybe the 10 or 15 or 20 that you have bookmarked, you feel like pretty satisfied and that you've gotten the day's news, and then you kind of move on through. Well, we're trying to create a much richer experience than that, and we're trying to create context with convenience so that you can decide.
Great question. Come on up. Mr. Gerke, correct?
Yes.
Hello, Gene.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. This
Good.
is one of the guys that helped brought us to Columbia.
And I do have your app on my smartphone.
Thank you.
So, you know, you talked about business models for news content. The challenge has always been, how do you develop a neat business model to pay for content development? Your approach has always been take other people's content and put it together. Have you gone beyond that in terms of trying to come up with a business model to develop original content?
Absolutely. Well, and it's okay, I'll challenge you a little bit on that. We actually do all of our own original research. We write all of our own scripts. We do all of our own analysis. We produce all of our own videos. We have those anchored, you know, and presented by all of our anchors and presenters that we have. Then we edit all of those videos, and then we send them out through a variety of sources, including not only our properties, but many other properties as well. And so we have migrated up the chain towards more wholly original content, most specifically with some of our partners. And one of the things that we've done is we've remained adaptive and flexible to where the best opportunities are. Some folks would go out and try to maybe see how much money they could spend, you know, in marketing and trying to, you know, build Newsy into this big iconic brand and so on and so forth. We have a distributed network that delivers tens of millions of unique views a month in doing it. So it's almost kind of like a reverse startup, and that we will build and grow organically in doing it. But it's Gene, to your question, and very much to the question that Sarah had, I really believe that relevant content for devices like this is both original content as well as curated. In fact, when you look at the research, and I encourage you to do so, people want multiple source news on devices like this. That is partially because of the nature of the device, but that is also partially because of the age of a lot of the folks who have bought these devices originally. You're starting to see the age increase for smartphone usage and iPad usage, but people want a richer experience when they're on this. And single source news doesn't do that. In fact, a number of the major news organizations and media organizations that we've been working with and speaking with are in fact interested in trying to be able to enrich in the content that they produce themselves and supplement it in what they produce themselves and complement it with like additional video. That's probably the biggest trend, because I know that one of the reasons maybe that you came on to Veterans United is video. And we bet really, really, really big on video, and we bet early. So I think one of the things in this is like being in the right place at the right time. Well, we're about 5 years too early, but we were very careful with our cash. We learned a ton during that time. It's given us a competitive advantage. If we were just starting the company now, I think that we would miss the window. But video is very much on the tips of the tongues of people going forward. And I think, Gene, one thing that you'll also find is when you look historically at broadcast and video, that there is a lot of curation that happens there as well. For example, I think the big interview and stuff that I saw running this morning was, and I apologize, I do not know how to pronounce this young man's name correctly, but Katie Couric interviewed this Notre Dame football player, and that was kind of a quote-unquote exclusive, but if you tuned into any one of the major networks or any one of the cable networks, you would have seen a significant portion of the story that they did on this fella as using that interview. So that's a really good way to think about it. That everybody needs to be able to have both the original and the curated.
Newsy Videos is tweeting me.
Oh, they are?
Yes, they are.
Are they telling me to get back to work?
No, they're watching you.
Okay.
Last question before
They're always
we go.
watching me.
The McCann family, there's two girls in here. There's 12 and 11. How old are you guys? 14 and 11. So they're playing hooky from school today because they want to learn more about being an entrepreneur. If you could talk directly to them, what advice would you give them thinking about yourself as a young Jim Spencer, 15 or 14,
that's
11
great.
years old?
And it's really, really great that you're here. When I was growing up, we didn't have as much of an opportunity to kind of be exposed to some of this stuff. An entrepreneur was sometimes a man or a woman who lived down the street who had invented something in their garage or had come up with a new adhesive or some kind of thing, and they were kind of a little bit different than, this person is a fireman, and this person is a policeman, and this person is a doctor, or whatever the case might be. And the only chance you ever really got to interact with them is if you were friends with their kids, or if there was some kind of neighborhood get-together. When I was in journalism school at the University of Missouri, I moved here from New York, and the only two things that I really knew about the University of Missouri were they had the best journalism school, and they had a pretty good basketball team. So I'm walking across campus, and I see a whole bunch of people wearing Greek letters on T-shirts, and then a lot of Missouri basketball T-shirts. And I said, gee whiz, where are the journalism school T-shirts? And the dean kindly allowed me to create a Missouri journalism T-shirt, which paid for school. It was pretty cool. It worked out. And I think the most important thing to do is to be enormously passionate and to truly love what it is that you're doing. That is the single most important thing, is to just truly, truly, truly love what you're doing. And then the other thing is be enormously persistent and stay after it. There are people who will tell you that will fail. You will have long airplane rides back from places that you thought you were coming back with a big contract or a big check, and all you're coming back with is a lot of bad feelings in doing it, but you just have to be passionate and persistent, and then surround yourself with the best people that you possibly can. They will help you get there, and you will need their help getting there. You cannot do it all by yourself. But love what you do, stay after it as hard as you can, and surround yourself with the best people that you possibly can. Those would probably be the 2 or 3 things that I would really focus on. And congratulations to you, and I think it's really great that you guys are here today.
And that's the McCall family, by the way, the McCall family, and their startup is called Butterfly, the Barking Butterfly Bakery. So cool. Google it and you can find some more information about that. Jim Spencer.
And if you are their teacher, please do not give them some kind of absentee thing. Cut them a break. You could be working for them soon.
That's right. Yeah. Jim Spencer, president and founder of Newsy. Thanks to you so much. Congratulations on your success, and I so appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Thanks.
Many thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.